Hi, everybody. On today's episode of Getting to Know Us, I wanted to ask you a question that kind of can make you think and reflect on yourself. This video, I'm going to have everything in one video. So, instead of making like multiple ones, I'm just going to put everything in one video to make it pretty simple for today. So, the first thing I wanted to start out with was getting to know us. One thing I wanted to ask you guys is that um, it's well known that 2020 has been a very challenging year from the beginning until up until now. It's like, what's going to happen next? I mean, we almost went to war in January. Remember that? Then Kobe died. It was like the end of the world. Um, Pop Smoke died. Not that some of you care, including me, but I guess it's still a life loss, right? Then COVID started happening. All these lockdowns and things that we're not used to and we've never experienced in our adult life or in our life period or our parents' life for that matter. A lot of things have changed. So 2020 has undoubtedly been one of the worst years that we've ever experienced. And everybody talks about it. It's kind of like the running joke. I wanted to know, what did you learn about yourself so far in 2020? It's August. So we have more or less 5 more months left of this year. What have you learned about yourself? Really sit back and ask yourself that question before you answer it. With all that's going on, what is something that you've discovered about yourself that you maybe might not have known before? For me, I think that I've discovered that I don't have as much patience for people that I once thought I had. And I don't care about things that I once thought I cared about. And I need to be more of a person that's able to just pick and go, live my life and move on when necessary from whatever it might be, whether it's a job, a dead-end friendship, a relationship, people that are in your family that you feel like you have to be involved with them because you're related, but really you don't, because at the end of the day, this is your life and this is your life we're talking about. So you only have one life to live. A lot of people lost their life with COVID, and I don't think they were ready to go yet. It's kind of not fair. It was kind of just like natural selection, how people were picked off. New York alone, we're talking about upwards of 20,000 people that have lost their life in COVID. So I simply don't have the time or energy to engage with people or things that no longer bring me joy. So that's something that I've reflected on. I definitely cut people off for less in this whole COVID thing, and I think I'm kind of liking the way I'm moving here. I've definitely been a lot more happy, stress free, and I don't necessarily feel bad about the relationships that I've decided to end or the situationships that I decided to walk away from with people, regardless of kinship. Regardless of the relationship with how I know these people. For example, just giving an example, like I'm in a relationship with my boyfriend, and if I don't like one of his family members, I decided that I'm not going to try to like somebody just because they're his family member. For example, I kind of just don't care. It is what it is. So I encourage you to do that. If you take anything from me, you should take the lesson that if you aren't already doing this, you shouldn't tolerate just anything. You are valuable. How you feel about something is enough. If you get around a person and your body starts itching and you feel like you can't be yourself and your whole aura changes, it's okay to not be around them. I don't care if it's your mother. I don't care if it's your dog. I don't care who it is. You are entitled to be happy. You only have one life to live. And when you are gone forever. There is no coming back. So you need to enjoy the time that you have while you're here. So that's what I've learned. And that's the lesson that I take. On a lighter note, let's go over the workbook answers. Okay. Let me get that situated for you really quickly. Good job on the workbook answers, everyone. I also liked your answers to the discussion board. I really enjoyed reading them. Some people kept it real, and some people gave the textbook answer, none of which are wrong. I had a couple of people flat out say, that's my brother, I'm telling him. For me, I move a lot. It's bad advice for me to say that I would have done that, but I might have done that. And considering that my first words was my brother's name. My brother's name is Hunter. My first word was Hunter. So there's a strong possibility I might have maybe sent him an anonymous letter. But the textbook answer is to mind your business and not get involved in things that could potentially make you lose your job and have a lawsuit. All right, starting on page 6, we did matching 1 through 17, starting on page 6 and spilling over into page 7. Number 1 is B, number 2 is P, 3 is F, 4 is J, 5 is N, 6 is K, 7 is M, 8 is C, 9 is Q, 10 is G, 11 is E, 12 is O, 13 is A, 14 is L, 15 is I, 16 is D, 17 is H. Matching part 2, which begins on page number 7, and that is going to be numbers 1 through 16. Number 1 is C, number 2 is K, number 3 is E, number 4 is H, number 5 is M, number 6 is J, number 7 is G, number 8 is A, number 9 is O, number 10 is L, number 11 is F, number 12 is N, number 13 is D, 14 is P, 15 is I, 16 is B. On multiple choice, pages 8 and 9, numbers 1 through 15. Number 1 is C, number 2 is A, number 3 is C, number 4 is B, number 5 is D, number 6 is A, number 7 is B, number 8 is B, number 9 is A, number 10, I told you that was a typo on that, and that is true. There's some type of typo where the answers didn't make sense. I went ahead and went with number D because I feel like that I understood what they were trying to say, but the textbook and the question and the answers didn't go together. Number 11 is B. Number 12 is D. 13 is A. 14 is C. 15 is B. And for number 13 and number 15, I get a lot of questions on that because people have a hard time finding it in the textbook. So for number 13, I notated that answer can be found on page 37. Number 13 of the multiple choice on page number 9 can be found on page 37. Number 15 as well. Number 15 on page number 9 for the multiple choice can be found on page 46 if you had trouble locating that. Okay. Number 10. We have on page 10, we have matching part 1, numbers 1 through 10, where you were supposed to determine the control letter and what medication it went to based on the chart in the textbook. Number 1 is B, number 2 is A, number 3 is E, number 4 is B, number 5 is D, number 6 is E, 7 is B, 8 is D, 9 is A, 10 is C. Matching with our laws, okay? Now we only have to do 11 laws, and I'm going to go over the laws that we are going to cover on this video. But for now, let's go through the answers, okay? So, this is matching part 2. Again, that's on page number 10, spilling over into page 11, numbers 1 through 20, and this talks about the laws. Number 1 is E, number 2 is R, 3 is I, 4 is N, 5 is A, 6 is Q, 7 is J, 8 is S, 9 is C, 10 is G, 11 is P, 12 is D, 13 is T, 14 is F, 15 is B, 16 is H, 17 is L, 18 is M, 19 is K, 20 is O. Matching part 3 on page number 11, the pregnancy categories. Number 1 is C, number 2 is E, number 3 is A, number 4 is B. Number 4 is D as in dog. Number 5 is B as in boy. On page 12, matching part 4, numbers 1 through 7. Notate that letter B is 225. Okay, it was a typo, but letter B is supposed to be formed 225. Number 1 is G, number 2 is B, number 3 is D, number 4 is C, number 5 is F, number 6 is A, number 7 is E. Okay? that's for those. I wanted to add something else to you guys too. Um, Good job on the workbook assignments. Everybody's been keeping up. I know it's kind of boring work, and I know that law is overwhelming, but it's such a big component of the PTCB that I really need to make sure that you guys know this. So I try to keep things light and focus primarily on law. So just bear with me, okay? I know it's a lot, but I think that law is the hardest test that you take in my class. Other students have said it. I'm going to let you know the law exam is harder than the final. I'm not going to lie to you. Especially if you were to be taking this in person where you have no ability to cheat on the test. Not saying that you will, but you know, there's always temptation. Well, if you were in person, you have absolutely no way possible that you can do that. It would be crazy, okay? Just saying. Now, let's look at DEA numbers, okay? For the most part, everybody did a really great job on this. I felt like you followed the video tutorial pretty well, or if you looked in the textbook on page 49, that was good too. If you're unfamiliar with where that's located, I dropped the link yesterday on the assignment. So DEA verification. You didn't have to show me how to do your work because it's too difficult to type into the computer. All I needed you to know is all I needed you to tell me whether it was valid or invalid. And the same thing for the test. You're only going to tell me whether it's valid or invalid. Okay? So number 1, Lucy Garza, that is a valid DEA number. Number 2, Doug Manning, it's valid. 3, Tanya Smith, it's valid. 4, Rick Taylor, it's valid. Number 5, Jack Jensen, invalid. The math didn't add up. Number 6, this is valid. Some people put invalid, and I'm wondering if it's because the last name was De La Rosa, and because they saw R, they felt like the last name wasn't correct. But with some Spanish last names, at least to my knowledge, people, when the last name is De La Rosa, they put it under R. So I don't know how that works and whatnot, but for all intensive purposes, number 6 is valid, okay? Assuming that Rosa is the beginning of the last name or something like that. I don't know what the Della is about, but I guess they just go by Rosa. Their last name would be alphabetically categorized as R. So number 6 is valid. Number 7 is valid. Number 8 is invalid. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this in the video. I might have not, and I didn't really see it in the textbook technically. Or we're not on this page anyway, but hospitals, pharmacies, and entities can have a DEA number. So simply because it's a hospital doesn't necessarily make it invalid. It can still be valid. They are allowed to have their own DEA number. Every single pharmacy in the United States of America has a DEA number because they're dealing with narcotics, okay? So it's not only people, it's hospitals, it's research institutions, it's pharmacies, it's hospitals. Anybody that has a dealing with a narcotic, whether they are receiving or distributing, will have one. So I'm not sure if I was very clear on that, but if that had a swaying of whether you put invalid because you didn't think that that was possible for that to be a DA number, I apologize for my lack of communication, but it could be. Now, number 8, again, was invalid, and it was based off the fact that the DEA number was incorrect. It had nothing to do with the first 2 letters. The numbers were incorrect. Number, I think it had too many numbers. Yeah. Number 8 had 8 numbers, and you're only supposed to have 7. So that's how you knew it was wrong off the bat. A DEA only consists of 2 letters followed by 7 numbers, and number 8 consisted of 2 letters followed by 8 numbers. If you know that when you're beginning to check it, you wouldn't have had to do no math. You automatically know it's incorrect. Number 9, Kirkland Pharmacy is invalid because the second letter doesn't match the first initial of the name. So it's Kirkland Pharmacy. Kirkland. So instead of P, it should be a K. So that's why it's wrong. Pharmacy doesn't count. The name of the building is what the first initial of the last name has to be. Or, the first name. Number 10 is valid. The math is correct and all the letters are correct. So number 10 is valid. So that's that for the DEA verification. Let's see what else was on my list to talk to you guys about. Okay. Law case study. I wanted to talk about a couple of questions on that. 2 questions that people were kind of, Again, this was your opinion. There was no right or wrong. As long as you did the assignment, I gave you credit, okay? When it comes to the syringe question, legally, people are allowed to purchase syringes without an ID. You're allowed to purchase. I'm sorry, not without a prescription. Excuse me. You are allowed to purchase a pack of syringes without a prescription. As long as you have a valid ID, you can get a 10-pack. It's not our opinion of what this person is going to do with their medicine. Or with their syringes. That's not our job. Our job is to be unbiased and fill the medication to the best of our ability and give great customer service regardless of race, gender, background, whatever you want to call it. That's not our job to judge anybody. You can have an opinion on whatever you want to have, but it should never sway. And the thought of you feeling like your blood is on their hands could never be, because you don't know what these people are doing. Your job is to simply sell the medication. I know there's a bit of detachment there, but you'll get used to it because there are a lot of drug users in New York, which is why we are going to watch a video. And we will watch another video as well about heroin use and how strong it is. Because of the rise in opiates, heroin has come back to the circle full-fledged. A lot of people are using heroin, especially in New York. It's a lot of drug use and things like that. And we will be delving into that because it's important for you to know about what drugs are trending on the street, just as important it is for you to know what's going on behind the counter. You should always want to have your ear to the street so you can understand what's going on around you. And you're better able to do your job when you're understanding why people act the way that they do. The sociology behind being a pharmacy tech is much more than just slap a label on it, okay? At least that's what I like to train my techs to do. I don't know what anybody else does, but I like my technicians to be well-rounded. I don't want you to go into the world and just know how to do dose, frequency, duration. You need to be well-rounded and educate yourself on things that are pharmacy involved and pharmacy related, so that when you go into an interview, you're able to talk about things and know about things that can separate you from the regular pharmacy technician, okay? So you must sell them the medication, okay? You got to give them the syringes. You can't not give them the syringes. It's like saying, oh, this person bought a car from me and they're a person that drives fast. I'm not going to sell them the car because I don't want them to crash and I'm going to feel bad. It's not our job to do that. So we can't do that. As long as we're within the scope of the law and the practice, we must just separate our own feelings. Great answers on the medication thing, though. With the neighbor was crazy. Fun fact, I actually had a girl drop my class because she said that, no, she didn't drop the class. She said she was going to blow up the school, and she got kicked out of the school, actually. Because she had gotten into an argument in class one day because she was saying that she's not selling that old lady the medicine because her word is her bond, and if she told her neighbor that she was going to save the medicine for her, that's what she's going to do. She don't care about the old lady. She's not a liar. She keeps it real, and she's going to give it to the patient. She's going to give it to her neighbor because that's what she said. And she just kept talking about it. And then other people were like arguing with her in class saying, you can't do that. And then she started going crazy talking about she's going to blow up the school. And she got kicked out. So that was strange. Don't try that at home. Let me just make sure there's not any other questions I had about this, because I know there was a different question I had that some people might have answered. 1 second. It was a syringe question. Oh, and the question about the pharmacist or whatever, whose fault it was. I agree. It was Pharm Tech number 1's fault, because when the pharmacist asked her to do something, if she knew she was overwhelmed, she should have spoke up and said, hey, if you want me to do this, I can do it, but you must know that I have this to do right now, so those things might take longer. It's okay to speak up and speak your mind. There's nothing wrong with, you're not being rude by telling him that you're overwhelmed. And sometimes the pharmacist might not know. It might not be as obvious that you're kind of busy. So sometimes you have to bring it to his or her attention. Hey, I'm a little busy. Are you sure? Because I have these things going on. As long as you're okay with that, then I'll do it. But for you to just pass the buck and then it didn't get done, that is kind of your responsibility, because You were supposed to listen to what the pharmacist asked you to do. Okay? Now, for us to talk about what will be on the exam. I was talking to a student earlier, and I was letting them know that we will only be tested on 11 laws, okay? I would like to go through the laws that we will be tested on. We are going to be tested on the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906, Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938, Durham-Humphrey Amendment 51, Kefauver-Harris Amendment 1962, the Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act of 1970, Poison Prevention Act of 1970, Orphan Drug Act of 83, OBRA 90, HIPAA 96, Combat Methamphetamine Act of 2005. Those are the 10 laws that are listed in your book. There's one law that is missing, and that is the 1965 Social Security Act. The 1965 Social Security Act is missing from your textbook, and that is the 11th law that you will be tested on. What did the 1965 Social Security Act do? It established Medicare. Medicare is government-funded insurance for people that are 65 and older or suffer from a disability that is deemed accurate by Social Security. So maybe you might have somebody that's 30 years old that has a disability and they're collecting Social Security. They will be on Medicare too, although they're not 65. Again, this is not in your textbook, but it will be on the test. It is 1965 Social Security Act. Again, it is responsible for establishing Medicare. Medicare is government-funded insurance for people that are 65 and older or people that collect Social Security benefits for a disability, permanent disability. Okay, so you have to know those 11 laws for the test. Also, you need to know what an NDC number is and what the 3 sets of information is in the textbook. That's on page number 23. On page 23, it explains to you what the 3 sets of numbers are. An NDC number is basically like a Social Security number for a medication. Every medication has one. You must know what the NDC number is and what the 3 sets of information are for. Then we are going to go to DEA verification. As you know what DEA verification stands, how to do it. You got the video, and it's also in the textbook on page 49. On page number 28, box 2.5, where it speaks about the Combat Methamphetamine Act of 2005. It tells you the amounts that are required in order to use that, when we're selling drugs that contain methamphetamine. In the textbook on page 28, box 2.5, we're looking at the second bullet. It says, the maximum amount sold may not exceed 3.6 grams in a day, 9 grams for 30 days, or 7.5 grams by mail. You must know that number of those items. How much grams can be sold? That's part of the Combat Methamphetamine Act. The reason why it's so strict is because people were doing crystal meth and they were using pseudoephedrine tablets and other tablets that had amphetamines in them in order to do that. So in order for us to stop that, we had to get involved and put a lock on how much can be sold. On page 30, we have Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Those are types of recalls that we need to know. Again, that is on page 30. Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Must know the difference between the 3. It's also in the PowerPoint. On page 35, it talks about controlled substances. You must know the difference between controlled numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What is most addictive or not addictive? On page 36, it lists our different DEA forms. I know that this is a lot of information, and I am trying to keep it law only because I'm telling you that I know that this test is overwhelming. I know that this is going to be the hardest test you take in this class. I know that you feel overwhelmed, and I'm sorry. But this is a major component of the PTCB. I know I keep saying the same thing, but I'm trying to make it as simple and as light as possible, which is why, yes, I give you assignments every day, but I'm trying to keep them light so that you can spend a lot of time focusing on Chapter 2. You must know Chapter 2 front to back. You gotta know this stuff. It is on the National Pharmacy Tech Certification Board exam. If you want to be PTCB certified, you gotta know your laws, okay? So, on page number 36, it lists all these different types of DEA forms on page 36. Those forms are the same forms that you did in the workbook. You can use the workbook to help you, the matching that you did, to help you realize what forms are for what. You can make flashcards, whatever it is you need to do. I suggest you do it because it's going to help you in the long run. Okay? And that's pretty much it for what I need you to know for the test. Of course, don't forget about your drug words because you always have a quiz on Friday, so that's separate. Don't neglect your drug words. And your SIG codes, of course, I'm always going to throw those in on the test because they're building blocks. Okay? But that's pretty much it. I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page as that. So that's all I had to go through today. I wanted to talk about the getting to know us. I wanted to go over the workbook answers. I wanted to discuss the case law studies. And I wanted to give you a heads up of what to focus on for the exam, okay? Thank you so much. And I'll speak with you guys later. Have a great day.